Started playing music at around 7 years old. My father used to come from gigs and leave his saxophone in the hallway. And when he used to go out to play the horses, I used to turn around and take the saxophone, and I was self-taught. So about at the age of 14, I started playing with a lot of the local bands. And my first big break was basically when I started playing merengue with Millie Jocelyn and Los Vecinos.
Peter, when did you start singing?
I started maybe I was about 12 in church in Puerto Rico. And then from there, I had a brother, may he rest in peace, he was the singer of the house. And I used to follow him all over the place. He was 2 years older than me. I used to follow him to the gigs and everything. And one day he got into trouble, he couldn't do the gig. They went to my mom and, oh yeah, nene puede hacer el guiso, you know.
How old were you?
I was 14 at that time.
That's
so I was So that was my first gig. It was a wedding, actually. I had no good clothes to wear, but my friend, I bought some clothes nice and cosa tan mala.
So, Dean, what or who would you say inspired you musically?
Well, musically, I honestly have to say my great-grandfather. He set the plateau for my family. Juan Morel Campos, padre de la danza puertorriqueña. I learned a lot from his dedication, a lot from his compositions, and just looking at my father. And my father, I grew up in that environment. I grew up backstage. I was a backstage kid.
Do you come from a musical family?
Yeah, my father was also a singer, and he had the trios and stuff. Back when I was, when I was a little kid here in Newark, he used to have his own trio, and he used to sing recordings and all that stuff. And then when we moved to Puerto Rico, he kept it going, and the family, my sister always grabbed the guitar. My brother, like I said before, he was a salsa singer of the house, and that's where I come from. And and Puerto Rico is very musical. So.
What part of Puerto Rico?
I was raised in Arecibo, born in Newark, New Jersey, raised in Arecibo.
And Dean?
Me, family's from Ponce, and I was raised in Washington Heights, up in Manhattan, New York.
Tell me more about your family.
Well, my family on my father's side, my father, Morel Campos, basically was a musical director and band owner from the 50s. Had a lot of hits back then, and he also had his own orchestra that used to do all the shows in the Teatro Puerto Rico, accompanying people like Bobby Capó, Daniel Santo. He was La Lupe's band for a long time. La Lupe is my godmother. Bobby Capó is my godfather. Daniel Santos is my godfather de agua. And it was just, I came up in that environment. It would be any given night I would walk in, I was a kid, and in the living room was Tito Rodriguez, my father, Santito Colón, all these musicians from the old school, Yayo Lindio, playing dominoes in the house. And they used to send me for the liquor. And those days I could go get it. These days you can't do that.
Peter, tell me about the first time you sang that you realized that you wanted to be a singer.
The first time I sang was, like I said before, following my brother around. He was on stage and he was doing his thing, and everything was cool. So he calls me to the stage. I was maybe like 12 years old. He called me to the stage. He said, "Hey, come on." He whispered in my ear something, and he grabbed me by the hair and he put me in the mic and he ran away. He said, "It's your turn now." So I had to start improvising. So that was it. That was my first time. 12 years old.
12 years old.
That was my first time.
So, which famous musician have you learned from or do you admire?
Wow, that's a tough question because so many great musicians today and yesterday. I used to listen, trumpet-wise, I used to listen to Dizzy, I used to listen to Miles. Then saxophone, I used to listen to Gato. And, just the influences, because a lot of these musicians had the Afro-Cuban flavor in them, and it just enticed me. And it was basic. One of my favorite saxophone players was a jazz player by the name of Art Pepper. Art Pepper was like an amazing saxophonist, and that I would say, if I were to ultimately say who was my favorite instrument, he was.
Would you say that you do music because you want to, or you obligated because you come from a music
No,
family?
you know what? I want to. Sometimes you question yourself, do you want to? But you know what? When you're out there and you're playing it and you're on stage, the business end of it goes away because now you're playing for the people. And the people is what gives you the energy. The musicians on stage are the ones that just say, you know what, we're here and we're gonna do this and we're gonna appreciate what we're giving to the public. And you know, working with guys like Pete, working with the musicians in the band that I work with all the time, it takes away only from the business end of things. I just love the music itself, and I do it because I want to.
And you, Pete, which famous musicians have you learned from or admire?
Well,